To help clear up any confusion people might still have about the new Metagross coming in Chaos Rising, the Pokemon Company International finally released its rulings FAQ for the new set. While Chaos Rising is not out until May 21st on Pokemon TCG Live, pre-releases started today, making it necessary. But obviously, the part we care about doesn't have any bearing on pre-releases. The whole hubbub started when I said Slowking decks are back thanks to the new Metagross. To be fair, the Japanese to English translation was a bit incorrect initially, but even when it was updated, people still questioned it. Well, here is the exact wording on the new Metagross in English. As you can see, Metallic Hammer does 150 base damage, but the added effect states that you may discard 3 Metal Energy from this Pokemon and have this attack do 150 more damage. Along with giving the Metal Maker Metang deck a great attacker who can deal up to 330 damage with Brave Bangle attached, the other use is in a Slowking deck. Previously, Slowking's biggest attack dealt 250 damage, copying either Conkeldurr or Crabominable. Now it's 300 because the wording doesn't require you to discard the energy to deal the extra 150 damage. As the official ruling posted on Pokegym explains, yes, Slowking can copy Metallic Hammer and do the extra 150 damage even if it has no Metal Energy to discard. However, if you do have any basic Metal Energy or say a Legacy Energy attached to Slowking, you have to discard as much Metal Energy as you can, up to 3 if you choose to do the extra damage. I'll admit that the explanation isn't super clear, but the do as much as you can part is important. I've used Wellspring Mask Ogerpon as a comparison in the past because it's the simplest. Even if Ogerpon has less than 3 energy attached, likely due to a Sparkling Crystal or counter gain, you can still choose to activate Torrential Pump's secondary effect. Again, it's about doing as much as you can. To make it even clearer, let's compare Metagross to Veluza EX, a card you probably didn't know existed. With Metagross, it's all one unbroken sentence. With Veluza, the first sentence says you may discard your hand. The second sentence adds that if you discarded any cards in this way, Purging Strike does 120 extra damage. So with Metagross, you can simply declare that you're discarding 3 metal to activate Metallic Hammer's secondary effect, but the discard isn't required. With Veluza, you must fulfill the requirement of Purging Strike, discarding at least 1 card from your hand. Whether you're still confused and accidentally punched yourself in the balls while trying to type an angry comment on this video, the end result is the same. Slowking can deal 300 damage by copying Metagross, all without having any Metal Energy attached. Sticking with Slowking, if you're planning on playing it on TCG Live when Metagross is out on the 21st, hold your horsies. If you copy Annihilape's Destined Fight with a Boomerang Energy attached right now, there's a good chance the game breaks. We won't know the patch notes for our Chaos Rising update until later this week, so stay tuned. But if a fix for this isn't included, well, the deck that should be rising like Chaos won't be able to get it up all the way. As for Special Red card, which is by far the best card in Chaos Rising, there's something you need to be aware of. Well, I guess technically there's 3 things you need to be aware of. First off, you can only use it when your opponent has 3 or fewer prizes remaining. Additionally, similar to Ino, the affected player shuffles their hand and puts it on the bottom of their deck. You don't shuffle the cards into your deck, then draw 3. So unlike Judge, you won't be able to draw into the cards you just lost unless you have a small deck. Most importantly, if your opponent has a 0-card hand, you can't play Special Red card. That's because of the last sentence, which says they only draw 3 cards if they put any cards on the bottom of their deck. If you'll recall, this also happened with Ino. If she was the last card in your hand when playing it, and your opponent also had a 0-card hand, nothing would happen. Probably my favorite ruling has to do with Delibird. It's extremely niche and will probably never actually pop up in a game, but it's still funny. Delibird's Pleasing Present allows both players to attach up to 3 basic energy from their hand to their Pokemon. The hilarity ensues if they try to attach an energy to a Pokemon with an ability like Empoleon EX's that prevents all effects of attacks. If they decide to attach energy from hand to Empoleon with Delibird's attack, the energy they attached is discarded after making their choice. Again, you'll likely never see this, but it's still funny. I should also point out that the original translation for Delibird was incorrect. You unfortunately can't accelerate special energy because I guess the Pokemon Company wanted to make this card worse. Though in a Crustal deck this thing would be a nightmare, so maybe it's a good thing it's only basic energy. As for Adversity Policy, it works in a similar manner to Lucky Helmet when your active is hit twice by a Festival lead deck. If the requirements of Adversity Policy are fulfilled, you draw 3 cards twice. Though why you'd ever play Adversity Policy over Lucky Helmet, I have no idea. Looking at Goodra, while it should be obvious, the wording on its slimy sliding ability doesn't mention this, so the ruling is here to help clear things up. As a reminder, you can only retreat once per turn. If you declare that you're retreating and flip tails on Goodra's ability, that counts as your retreat for turn and you can't try again. Speaking of retreating, there's a fun quirk with Roxie's performance. And I'm not talking about the quirk where I can create multiple copies of myself to admire all those perfect feat. The effect of Roxie says your opponent's poison Pokemon can't retreat during their next turn. Against certain Dark decks, that's not a big deal because they can just use Petron TX's ability to switch into somebody on the bench. However, because that new Pokemon is poisoned with the ability, it can't retreat. So in this specific situation, you can't Petrunt into Yveltal, then retreat Yveltal into somebody else. Now, it may seem a little weird to focus on this Ho-Oh that no one's ever really going to use, but trust me on this one. The official ruling on Ho-Oh's Flames of Revival says that you can choose to fail it even if there's a basic in your discard pile. This is important because it harkens back to a new ruling put in place earlier this year. Previously, if you used an attack that included the up to X clause when interacting with the discard pile, you had to take at least one. They recently changed that to mean you can now choose anywhere from 0 to X. This impacts Mega Lucario's Aura Joust the most, as you can now choose to attach 0 energy where before it was at least 1. Naturally, Pokemon TCG Live, the official digital client for the trading card game developed by the Pokemon Company International, has implemented this change that was announced in freaking February, right? Of course not! Right before making this video, I filmed this footage. As you can clearly see, the done button is grayed out, meaning I can't select nothing. Again, this change was made 3 months ago and it's still not reflected in their game. This is yet another instance of not being able to trust TCG Live. But maybe they'll address this in the next patch, which arrives on Tuesday, May 19th, alongside the usual 8 hours of downtime. And if this is the first time you've heard that Live has to go offline for 8 hours to apply every update, no, it's not normal for a game to go offline for 8 hours to apply an update. Another issue the PTCGL dev kinda needs to fix is Vivillon from Perfect Order being able to hit into Cornerstone Masked Ogerpon despite having an ability. Yeah, I don't know how they screwed this one up. And the fact they didn't outright ban Vivillon shows they don't think people will take advantage of this. Or it takes a little bit of effort to ban a card and they just didn't feel like it. Either or. And because why not, here's some other PTCGL issues that are known by the dev. The biggest is the disconnect glitch that's been going on for several months. I've posted about this multiple times and yes, it's still happening. Additionally, while I can happily say the card select glitch has lessened in severity, I can't tell you that a toe ring is a good idea. I mean, why would you want to hide any part of your foot? Also, the card select glitch is still happening, just in smaller numbers. Personally though, I haven't experienced it since they said they believed it was fixed. And in my tomes, that's a win. Even though this next part is useless information since you heeded my warning and have avoided Mega Clefable like a sock drawer, the interaction with Iron Thorns EX is still interesting. Clefable's ability blocks all effects of abilities done to it. Iron Thorns' ability shuts off all rulebox Pokemon abilities. While you might try to come up with a convoluted solution to which takes precedence over the other, it's actually really simple. Clefable is the daddy in this situation, never getting affected by Iron Thorns. Finally, while Medicham V was banned earlier this year and expanded alongside the release of Perfect Order, no changes were made with Chaos Rising. So if you were hoping for double Dragon Energy to get the boot, well, you'll have to wait for the Pokemon Company to decide they care about Expanded again. And until PTCGL gets the format supposedly later this year, I doubt they will. There's a few other minor rulings for Chaos Rising cards you can find by clicking the Pokegym link in the description. But for now, a fun game we haven't played in a while is guess which cards from the new set will be broken on TCG Live at launch. Considering that 5 from Perfect Order didn't work properly, including Naveen, which is a reprint of Sightseer, I have low expectations for Chaos Rising. If I had to guess, I'd say the two leading candidates are Goodra and Angie Floette. I mean, the damn thing's our first ever double stadium. The dev might have to change the entire game logic to allow for 2 stadiums to be played in the same turn, which will no doubt cause some issues.